Good evening from our headquarters in Kyiv. This is Hromadske International and the Sunday show at Hromadske International, the only prime-time TV program explaining Eastern European geopolitical storm in English, and I'm Natalia Humenyuk. So that's what we would watch today. Kyiv Pride 2017, LGBTI march bigger than before with the feeling of equality. What to expect from possible meeting of the Ukrainian President Poroshenko and the US leader Donald Trump. Talking to the wife of an Azeri journalist kidnapped in Georgia. UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission proposes the mechanism to pay pensions to the Ukrainians in the conflict zone. And our exclusive interview with former US Secretary of State Madeleine Albright on women in politics. And please go to our webpage en.hromadske.ua in order to read the full version of the reports and the interviews as well. Please search to Hromadske International at our Twitter feed and also at our Facebook page. So there you'll see a lot of coverage, and I'll be back in a second. So we do have the great, I would say, panel here. We will discuss the Kyiv Pride, which have taken place today, and we already can say that it was a major success. We have here Rebecca Harms, the European MP of the European Parliament. Hi, Rebecca. It's already the third or the second Pride you've been to?
No, I have been here more often, but it's the second Pride which took place in the center of Kyiv.
And Anna Dohopol, who is one of the members of the organization committee, so there were many people have come to the streets of Kyiv, and before we start the discussion, I suggest we watch the report.
Every person has the right to peaceful gathering, to peaceful expression, to freedom of speech. If we are talking about Ukrainian citizens, we should all have equal rights. They also work, they too pay taxes. Why should their rights be different from mine? The same goes for our opponents. They live here, they pay taxes. Why should their rights differ from mine? We live in a democratic country, and all citizens should understand that all people living in this country must live in peace, compliance, and friendship.
I think the atmosphere is very good. It is a party atmosphere. It is much bigger than last year, and I think you can see that people have decided to dress up and add some glitter this year, which is much more in keeping with the sentiments of pride.
People came here to say that they exist and they don't wish anything bad for anyone. In other countries, as far as I know, Pride looks like a celebration. Everyone is walking, people join in and have fun. Why would someone get the impression that this is some kind of propaganda? How can you make someone love anyone? People want to show that they are peacefully minded and everything is fine. We do not constitute a threat. We exist and we want the same rights as other people.
So that was the report. We've all been here, and Anna, probably you as one of the organizers, what do you need to say? What do people need to know about this particular Pride? How do you feel about it?
Well, on the part of the organizers and myself personally, I want to say that we're happy, we're excited, we're tired but also very relieved that everything went safely. And I wish we come to that point in time where we feel only happy, where we don't need to feel thrilled and afraid of the opponents. But one of the most important things we want to say that the police worked almost perfect this year, and we are very grateful to them.
Oh, we'll talk to that as well. So, Rebecca, what have you mentioned? What would be your message?
I can continue where you just finished. I met the chief of the national police during Eurovision Song Contest days. Police already then was very busy in Ukraine, in Kyiv, to guarantee the safe stay of many people visiting Kyiv. And we talked already then on measures to be taken for the Pride, to guarantee the Pride. And today I can say Kyiv Police, National Police, they did a very professional job. And so with the people marching, also the police protected the rule of law and the rights of everybody in Kyiv, the right to protest, the right to march, and I like it.
How was your cooperation with the police? Because that's the point. You can't still it can't take place today, let's agree, in Ukraine if there is no security and protection.
It's true. Personally, I wasn't involved in cooperation, but I closely I talked to my colleagues who did that, and they said that it wasn't smooth all the way, but it was partially because probably police was busy with the Eurovision. But then there were not so many obstacles as it used to be before. So the police was, for the most part, cooperative. But it's obviously not the ideal situation, and there is still the way to go.
But, for example, in the very beginning today, I think they found a very professional way to de-escalate the situation, so to separate the Pride from these anti-LGBT people, the right-wingers or whoever it was. And it was very clear and very safe for the participants during the Pride. And what I can say, compared to last year, everybody was much more relaxed.
We've just seen the video. So there were up to 300 people who opposed the Pride. There were members of different far-right groups, so they were yelling, chanting. There was more usual. We knew that 7 of them had been arrested, but there were no major, as far as I understand, major violence or something that somebody was really hurt. What do we know up till now?
We know that 3 or 4 people were attacked after the march when they left. One person was beaten when he went out of the cafe, getting on the taxi. I think his finger is broken. Another person was chased to one of the to his house where he lives in Vinogradar, which is the outskirts of the city. I know that the 2 police officers were injured, but these injuries are, we can say that they are minor compared to the danger that was expected and to the last year's Pride. So the progress is there.
It's clear what we have to improve.
Yeah,
if to provide the impression of the Pride for those who hadn't been there, what you also would say, about the amount of people, about what would be the issues people raised. I also would encourage our director to show a bit more footage of, how it looked. And how was it, the feeling, compared to, the other Prides which are taking place globally?
So normally the Prides I joined in Western European countries, especially also in Germany, we don't need this kind of police work. Yeah, and clearly I would appreciate if in Ukraine once we would see the Pride not needed this kind of defense and protection. But I can say, so today I spoke to many participants participants. I met the mothers of LGBT people. I met colleagues from RADA, Svetlana Zalichuk. I met ambassadors from Canada. I know that also UK ambassador was there. Many staff from EU embassies. My friends from Munich, you always show, and now it's very nice to see them there. And everybody confirmed. We feel a bit more people participating, but mainly also they felt, what I said before, very relaxed and protected. Last year it was a bit more nervous.
What would you add to that? Did you share?
I signed to what Rebecca has said, and I was at the beginning of the column, so I personally didn't manage to see much. I still had to march after the 2 rows of the police officers, but I know that this year the march was much more diverse in terms of the different groups within the LGBT community that were represented. There were more radical, more liberal groups. There were drag queens. There were other people. We had a lot of international guests, and this was the real march of equality, diversity, whatever you call it, should look like.
And I've heard that, you couldn't, there was really the drag queens first time, and it had, given the sentiment of the prides you have in different Western cities from the West, from Kyiv, and not a lot of them from Kyiv have come, so you there were people from all over the country brought, in particular the drag queens. So what also, you think there were the people also there, they are sometimes at the price, those people who would protest. I'm not speaking about the far right or somebody who would try to use violence, but, people who are speaking for the traditional family values, they try to be loud but not violent. How do you see, and what would be also the answer for a larger part of the Ukrainian population who probably stayed at home? What you would like to address with that?
That people are different. That the slogan and the political agenda of the Pride, of this year's Pride, was that the country for all, the family for all, the medicine for all, education for all, you name it. Which means that people who live in this country and this territory, they're so different, they're so diverse. And but this shouldn't mean that one people should be more privileged than other people, or one people should be more underprivileged than others. If people want to build what we call traditional family, they're free to do, but then other people are free to build other types of families if they feel comfortable with that, and if they don't harm other people. This is the most obvious answer that is there.
But do you think, what are the still challenges which are remaining? We see that there was a lot of police, but with the communication, there were some of the MPs, there were some members, representative of the government, but not, and some of them really, like Vice Prime Minister, she expressed her support on her Facebook page before, but still in your conversation, there was no, support from, President, Prime Minister, a lot of other people. You're talking to a lot of the Ukrainian politicians.
But I think it will come. And I remember, so when we started to march in Germany, in the months of Pride, it was also not like today that many politicians joined or even had their coming out. Yeah? So it changed over the years. And I think in Ukraine it will also change, because I'm of the deep believe that Ukrainians are by heart a non-violent society. I remember very well the explosion against Yanukovych when he sent Berkut to the non-violent action of Maidan, since we saw a lot of change because of the war. But in the core, I think the Ukrainian society is a tolerant society and wants to live in peace. And so the main slogan today was really Ukraine is a country for all, and we will go there. And
just to add to the politicians, I have read on Facebook and then also also in media, positive statements from some of the political leaders, not necessarily MPs, who say that they're happy that the Pride has taken place and that everything is safe. And I've also seen some Max Nefedov at Pride, who works at the Ministry of Regional
Economy,
yeah, and several others, and that was the very positive signal.
So that was something like a signal for the others. So in generally, do you think that the theme of the, at least in the public space, the way that people started to speak about Pride has changed? Because it's true that during the time of conflict in the society, which is not very used, there is no secrecy about that. That in Eastern Europe, not a lot of people are used to those, to Pride and to open, honest discussion about LGBTI community, that the discourse had shifted, that there was some. Have you felt it?
I have. It started last year when, as the reaction to this far-right threats, so many people came out into the streets, people who have nothing to do with the LGBT community, but who came to support the right to expression and the freedoms that they stood at Maidan several years ago. And this happened this year as well. It did change. People start to react in a more calm way. They say it should not be an issue. We don't understand why it should be an issue. In the free country, everybody should have the equal rights. So the discourse, I mean, of course, the discourse in Kyiv, among specific group of people who communicate on Facebook, on social media, it did change. I still have the long way to go.
Anna, I would, for the end, would ask what are still the issues which needed to be solved and which could be solved, for instance, on the level of the government, of the parliament. Besides, because to change the public opinion, it's a long process.
True.
Yeah.
Among the most pressing ones are the new labor code that would include, among other things, also protection on the grounds of sexual orientation and gender identity, because in the new version it's not there. It was in the old version. It seems like it was only for the visa-free regime. Also, we desperately need protection law again that would articulate hate crimes and hate speech as specific types of crimes, and that should be and there should be punishment for that. So the law should recognize that the problem is there. So far, it doesn't exist for most of the groups, not only for the LGBT groups, and obviously partnerships, some regulations and partnerships, to name the few.
And Rebecca, that is a question, because it's already 1 week since Ukrainians enjoy a visa-free regime with the European Union, and there is a bit of the thing here that, would it be the case that, since the major success had been achieved, that you don't need anymore to fulfill all these criteria? I'm speaking about the political, about the government, because it's true that the part this law had been adopted was because there was this promise that it connected to visa-free regime. So do you have this feeling that there would be different opportunity, I won't say to pressure, but that there won't be this this kind of a drive which make some of the reluctant members of parliament to do the things, just to change reforms, to go for to support human rights? And what would be your reaction?
Nobody should think that once you have organized the Pride, you can forget about the rights issues for minorities or LGBT people. So all the criteria must not be fulfilled or met only once. We need implementation of laws which have been prepared, and the EU will carefully follow the implementation. On the other hand, whatever we can do to make also Ukraine so more democratic and democratically stable country, the main change should not be based only on our criteria. The main change in society should be based on conviction. And I see that in many parts of society there's a good move, and we can support this with our criteria. We can support this also by sometimes knocking on the door of Rada, asking, what are you really doing? So democracy is always built by the citizens of a country and not from outside.
Okay, so Anna Dovopol, who is one of the members of the organization committee from Kyiv Pride, there is a larger team behind that. There are a lot of people working on it, but thanks for coming at these days to our studio. And Rebecca Harms, the member of European Parliament from the Party of Greens and the great supporter of Ukraine. And I'll be back in a second with the rest of the program and numerous issues we would like to raise.